just got out of court. And James Teague joins us right now from the Teague Law Firm, former Arkansas pitcher. James, I know I'd like to ask you all the details about what happened in court and everything, but there's this little attorney-client privilege, so we can't get into that. That's one thing to definitely promote about Teague Law Firm. We respect attorney-client privilege. That would be top of the list.
Play by the rules.
Yeah, that'd be top of the list.
Yeah, it would probably be bad advertising if I came on here and said, oh, let me just spill the beans about everything. Oh, but yeah, come see me.
We were talking, Matt and I, because we were kind of joking a little bit. It was like, well, James might make the appearance. He's got this little thing going on called court, you know. So Matt talks about people that are competitive, just competitive nature, you know. And when you're a pitcher in baseball, I think a lot of times you're looking on winning a pitch, not just winning an at-bat or winning an inning or a game. I mean, you're going pitch by pitch, and you're competing on every single pitch. Do you ever view your job now in court? Because that is a little bit of a form of competition. Do you view it ever the same way? Do you view that you're competing, or is it really just representing your client's interests and competing from that vantage point?
Absolutely.
Yeah, I think there's a little bit of both there. You know, for instance, I had court earlier this week, and just to be frank with you, the other attorney kind of chapped me. I think he was not being very reasonable, and so I said, all right, buddy, here we go. You know, I maybe stayed up a couple extra hours on that one. Obviously, you want to represent the client, but, you know, I'd be lying if I said there wasn't that competitive edge. You know, it's kind of like when the batter's chirping at you in the box, you know, you want to strike him out extra bad. Similar concept when you're in the courtroom. And I think the client always benefits from that as well, having someone who, you know, has a personal little bit of edge to him that says, I not only want to represent you, but I kind of want to stick it to this guy too, you know, on behalf of you for your interests.
I love it. I love it.
You could hear it just come out, that competitiveness coming out right there. I like it, James.
Well, and I can see it. I can see him on the mound right there with a guy. You can't do this anymore because of the pitch timer and everything. But stepping out, time out, stepping out. You're about to come set. You're about to lift your leg. Stepping out. That would be the exact same thing.
Next pitch is coming inside.
That's right.
Yeah, and honestly, in the professional world, it's similar to baseball. You know, you've got some hitters. You know, they take your time. You know, I'll step in the box. You know, I'm not gonna throw off your rhythm, whereas others, you know, are intentionally trying to throw you off your game. So there's kind of this back and forth, you know, all right, how do I respond? How do I throw you off your game? What intricacies of the law can I bring in that, you know, to try to win this case? And, you know, that's an everyday kind of deal, you know, because not to get too far in the weeds, but, you know, the rules of evidence can be tricky. You know, there's a lot of exceptions and tricks and this and that, but, you know, if you've got that edge in you that says, I'm going to show you that you're not going to run over me, then I think that, you know, that comes out in me a lot, I'll say.
James, it was an instant classic yesterday with Wake Forest and LSU. I was going to get your thoughts if you got to see that game, but then you got Florida and LSU in the championship. Who do you got?
Well, I don't think they're going to beat Paul Skeens, so I got to give them at least one game, and then I think the other two are a toss-up. I like LSU. I think they've got good morale. I think they're obviously really talented team, you know, with Tommy with Fields, or I think that's his name, and then Paul Cruz. But yeah, last night it's unbelievable. I got to watch the whole game. I think that's probably two of the best starting pitcher matchups you're going to see anytime. You know, Paul Skeens is obviously, you know, one of the best college pitchers of all time, probably. So yeah, I was glued to my seat the whole time.
The thing about Skeens that just stands out, James, it's not that he throws over 100 miles an hour. It's that he can put that pitch where he wants to put it. And I think that's a reason why, again, there's guys that can throw 101, 102, 103, but they might as well do it with their eyes.
More throwers and not pitchers.
They might as well do it with their eyes closed. Skeens, I think, could throw with his eyes closed and throw the ball to a penny.
Yeah, and I think that's a lot attributed to Wes Johnson, you know, because there's a misconception. Some people, when they try to throw harder, they get less control. But I think for Skeens, his timing, his sequencing, all of that lined up, and because he's moving so much more efficiently, he's actually that much more repeatable and that much more accurate. So I think he's the exception to where I'm throwing harder because I'm more efficient, and because I'm more efficient, I also throw more strikes. And yeah, when you see him, it's like, you know, he can really do it all.
I'm blown away watching somebody work on, and he's working on major league rest, on professional rest of 4 days from the previous start. Now, I don't think he can start again because the most rest he could get would be Friday, Saturday, Sunday, be 3 days. Mm-hmm. And there are major league pitchers in the playoffs that in the World Series that start on 3 days rest. I don't know if LSU would do that to him, but then again, I mean, I'm watching him pitch yesterday. There was 120 pitches. 4 days after he threw 123 pitches, James is still throwing triple digits. It's like he's a machine. This is not what college pitchers are like. You're supposed to lose something after you throw that much. I just wonder, if you're a team that's, and he's I don't see how he gets past the first 2 picks. But if you're a major league team that's pitching this, that's picking this guy, you've got to probably resist the thought, especially if you're in contention, to bring him up, because he's thrown 556 pitches just in the postseason in 5 starts. James, is this a guy that you'd think might need to have a little time off once the season's over?
Yeah, potentially. I mean, you don't want to rush anyone in. You get somebody hurt and then really set them back. It looks to me, though, like his, when you watch him throw, it's like he's playing catch. He's like he's just doing his thing. You look at the gun, you're like, that looked like 80% effort, but it was 100 miles an hour, and you're doing that for 8 innings straight. So I think he's not a max effort guy, so I don't think he maybe has the same stress on his arm, but nobody is not susceptible to, just the rigors of throwing that much. So, yeah, that may be a judgment call for whoever drafts him, but I'd like to see him, maybe go through the minor leagues, get some rest, have a couple starts at each level, be at big league camp next year, ready to be an everyday contributor to that minor league club.
James, did you see any of the NBA draft and some of those suits they were wearing? Would you wear a suit like that into
I want to see
courtroom?
James Teague in a Grady Dick bright,
bedazzled,
red suit.
with your chain on going in there.
So I did not see it, but I can envision what you're talking about. And it's kind of funny because you look back at drafts, you see the old, like, LeBron draft and those. They're wearing basically, towels. It's like the baggiest suits of all time. Mm-hmm. And then now it's all tailored. You can see some ankle. You got chains, this and that. And, in 10 years from now, it may be totally different, too. I'm a little bit less decorated in the courtroom. I don't even wear a watch, if that tells you anything.
All business, yeah.
James, it's 24 years in a row now that the number 1 overall seed will not win the College World Series. I call it a streak instead of a jinx because I don't believe that that's a thing. But we saw, hey, this is a sport where I think last year you could have said Ole Miss was the 64th of 64 teams that got in, and they won the thing. This is, I think it just says so much about the sport itself. I think this is, and this year it's different. Even though the number 1 seed won't win it, well, you have the team that was number 1 most of the year in LSU, and Florida, I think they were the number 2 seed. I mean, so this has a little bit of a chalky feel to it. But what is it about this sport that you think is different than the other sports, men's basketball, football, women's basketball, all the others, where a number 1 seed routinely, look at Oklahoma in the Women's College World Series, 3 years in a row, number 1 seed, win the thing. Why does it not happen in baseball?
That's a good question. I think it really matters who's hot at the right time. I think we saw that with Ole Miss, to where a team that's really talented that goes cold can very easily get beat by a team who's less talented but who's really playing well. If their bullpen's performing, if they're getting depth out of their starters, because timely hitting, you can imagine that you see a great team that has a bunch of hits, but they don't get timely hits, they don't score. And then you see a team that maybe gets a couple hits, but they were the right ones, and they put up 3, 4, 5 runs. So it's just, there's so many variables and there's so many things that factor into it. I think that's part of what makes it so exciting because you just really never know how it's going to shape up.
So you just got out of court. I know we want to bring something up today about orders of protection. The Teague Law Firm can help with all kinds of family law matters, guardianships, adoption, child support, criminal law, traffic offenses, DWIs, estate needs, anything like that. You wanted to talk about protection orders today. Go ahead, James.
Yeah, so it's not to be a downer, but sometimes if you feel that there's a need for protection, you feel that there is an imminent threat to your safety from some other person, you can file what's called an order of protection, and you can get a temporary order of protection, and you'll have a hearing. And if you feel that there's someone who is, like I said, creating a threat to you in the immediate sense, then the court can actually order a no contact with that person. It can connect to your business, your house, to your kids, and it's just another avenue that people can take on the civil side to be protected where maybe they don't feel safe, and that's something that we do quite a bit of.
Is there a level or a certain amount of evidence that you have to provide to show that somebody is harassing you or that you have reason to fear this person?
Well, sometimes the evidence will be a recent charge. So let's say if there's a domestic charge, you would use that as evidence, and you could have the police officers testify. You could, admit pictures of bruises or injuries that you have, and then also just your verbal testimony. And ultimately, you're making the case to the judge, I need protection from this person, and here's either my testimony or the hard evidence to justify that assertion.
Serious stuff, but yeah, I mean, it's not necessarily being a downer. It's just a fact of society in today, and
yeah.
you function. You serve a really important function in that sense too, James. That's for sure.
Yeah, and it's necessary sometimes. It's necessary just to give people something extra that they can rely on, to where if they don't feel safe, they can come to us and we can help them out.
All right, we'll leave it there, and hey, next week we can talk about a College World Series championship. James, appreciate you, and thanks for letting me know that. Maybe you might not get out, but I'm glad you got out in time today.
Yeah, I was cutting it close. I told the judge, I got to run. I got to call with Phil.
That's James Teague from the Teague Law Firm. You can call them at 479-877-1688, 479-877-1688, or online at teague-law.com. James Teague, former Arkansas pitcher and member of the Teague Law Firm, joining us Fridays to the end of the month on Halftime. Open segment coming up. Calls and texts at 877-377-6963. It is